Now, to discuss all of this, I am joined by James Stewart of private equity firm ECI Partners. James, do you agree that M&A is the theme for next year?
Well, I think it has to be, given that M&A volumes and values can't get any lower than they have been. You've got to remember that overall, the private equity transaction volumes in Europe have fallen from about 211 billion euros in 2007 down to about 26 for 2009. So there's been a complete contraction within the industry. The result of this is that there's a lot of assets out there looking for a home. And as banks ease up on credit restrictions and start entering into the market, that's going to drive M&A volumes going forward for 2010. So yes, I think he's absolutely right. There's going to be a pickup next year. It will partially be driven by private equity firms either realizing investments which they hold in their portfolios, or to some extent trade acquirers seeking to make strategic purposes from private equity to drive future growth into 2011 and 2012.
Well, tell me about private equity, your industry. Tell me the state of the market now. What have they been doing for 2009, and how prepared are they for next year?
Okay, 2009 has been a year of two possible, depending on where you are in the industry, stories. In the mid-market, it's held up reasonably well, which is where ECI is in terms of transaction volumes. In the leveraged buyout market, it's crashed. And the result of that has been that there's a lot of firms out there in the leveraged buyout market who have funds to invest and are looking to drive future performance with investments in 2010 and 2011. So there's a lot of dry powder out there looking for a home, and the result of that will be that as you predict, M&A volumes for next year are going to increase.
Are those funds prepared for a lower leverage future?
I think everybody's prepared for a lower leverage future. I think the shakeout in the banks has still got a bit further to go. But having said that, there's going to be perhaps some of the more instruments which appear in a downturn, such as vendor loan notes, restructuring, perhaps to some extent vendors retaining a minority equity participation in a transaction going forward. But ultimately, deals will happen.
Tell me about the confidence as it exists at the investor level within private equity. Are they confident that now's the right time to get back into deal making? Will they support private equity firms who are ready to move at the beginning of the new year?
Private equity is a long-term investment, and there's a lot of very experienced investors out there who can take a long-term view. In fact, for the better performing funds, you'll find that they invest and realize investments both in a downturn and in a boom. For example, we've completed both public to privates this year, taking investments off the quoted stock exchange, as well as realizing investments to trade acquirers, for example, Raycol Acoustics to a US trade acquirer. So, and also we were fortunate enough to raise a fund at the back end of last year, which gives us firepower going forward into 2009, 10 and 11. So I think for well-established private equity firms with a demonstrable track record in previous recessions, it's going to be, they'll be supported by their investor group. I think for new funds or underperforming funds, it's going to be a tough future.
So there will be private equity buying and selling next year. Will there be more of one than the other?
I think there's going to be more realizations next year. I think there's a lot of large LBOs out there held by very, very good investments, but looking for realization. I think 2010 and 11 is going to be when a lot of very large LBO funds begin to realize those good performing investments.
Now, I believe you, but what if next year doesn't turn out the way we're all expecting, the way Morgan Stanley and Deutsche Bank and the big investment banks are predicting? What do we need to be prepared for if the boom doesn't come back in M&A?
Well, I don't think there's going to be a dramatic boom in M&A. I think there'll be a pickup, but I don't think we're going to return to the 2007 levels. I think the activity will build in 2010 and 11, but I can't see a returning to the 2007 level, certainly before 2012.
Thank you very much.